Howdy, welcome to BanjoBenClark.com. I am Banjo Ben, your teacher for all things banjo, guitar, but this week is Mandolin week. We're going to look at Bill Cheatham. Here's the thing with Bill Cheatham. It's one of those fiddle tunes that's very, very common, but it's also very intimidating. I'll just be really honest. I remember first trying to learn this song when I was learning how to play, and I got intimidated, partly because the melody's a bit complex, but also there's all these chord changes. I was intimidated just playing the chord changes, much less the melody. And I've got a camp coming up, and one of the songs that everybody wanted to work on at the camp is Bill Cheatham. And so I thought, well, I need to come in and just teach you mandolin players an introductory, approachable, doable version of Bill Cheatham. That's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to boil down that involved melody down to kind of the keynote notes that we need to be able to string this melody together. And then we can talk about how to beef those up as well. And I already have intermediate and advanced versions of this on the site. So this is for those of you who want to learn the song and you want to get through the melody and get a handle on it. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, here in a moment, I'll ask you to come over to the website, BanjoBenClark.com. You can join as a Gold Pick member like many other folks have and have access to hundreds of lessons. If you're watching this on the website, you got everything you need right here. Just scroll down after this video is over and you'll see the rest of the lesson with the tabs and the JamTrack MP3 so you can practice along. Let's get going. Okay, again, nothing too complicated about this melody. We're just boiling it down to those melody notes that make Bill Cheatham Bill Cheatham. And so we're getting rid of a lot of the eighth notes and boiling those down into quarter notes. A couple things about this song before we get started. One is it's in the key of A, like a lot of fiddle tunes are. And with it being a fiddle tune, it follows a very common fiddle tune structure where you have an A part that has a certain melody and key and chord progression, and that lasts for 8 measures. And then you'll repeat it. So you'll play the same thing again. And we may find some variations in there to kind of change it up a little bit. But then you go into a B part. It's also 8 measures long, but the chord progression changes as well as the melody. That's kind of the question and the answer part of the song. And it repeats itself. So you go A part, and then you play B part, B part. And we can find different ways to mix those up to where it doesn't sound too monotonous. And I'll show you how to do that. Not all fiddle tunes have that structure, but a lot of them do. And Bill Cheatham's one of them that does that. Let's go ahead and look at the tab here. A couple things I want you to notice too before we jump into the tab is that I don't have an intro to this one. I've got lots of other fiddle tunes on the site that has an intro, what I might call potatoes. It sounds something like this. Something like that to just start off the tempo of the song. We don't have that here. I just want to jump right into it, talk about the melody with you. The other thing that you'll notice as you walk your way through the tab is I'm not going to have any hammer-ons, slides, or pull-offs. So we just have very basic things that anybody can tackle. I do want you to pay attention though, especially if you're a beginner mandolin player. Those little arrows beneath each one of the notes, those are our pick stroke arrows. They're very important. So for the down arrows, which happen on the down beats, we're going to play our pick through the strings toward the floor. So in that first measure that we see there, down, down, down for the first 3 notes. Okay, so it's important that we do that. And then we'll have some upstrokes, as you see at the very last note of that measure. And we'll use those on the upbeats, on the ands, with those 8th note pairs. Okay? So when I think about Bill Cheatham, and I think about the A part anyway, there's some big notes that stand out that make it sound like Bill Cheatham. And they're even open for interpretation a little bit. But it's going to start on this E note down here, and it's going to jump up to a 6th interval above it, up to that C sharp. So no matter how difficult of a version you play, it needs to have those notes to sound like Bill Cheatham. You can have all kinds of harmonies in there if you want, but we need to hear those notes. So we're just going to play those, and then we're going to climb back up to it in the next measure, and then jump up to the E string and come back down. So that's what the first 2 measures sound like. Very simple. Then back down. Now we're going to continue that idea of jumping up that 6th interval, but this time we're going to do it over a D chord. So we're going to start on the 4th fret now. That's an F sharp note. And the 6th interval that we jump up this time is up to that 5th fret. Okay. Then we'll keep climbing, and then climb back down. Okay. So you can hear how that theme is presented over two different chords there in that first line. So the whole line sounds like this, and then we'll play it much slower all the way through together later on. I also want to encourage some of you out there that are just starting to leave your fingers down on the frets for as long as you can until you have to pick them up. It's just a good thing to start practicing right now, make your playing sound more smooth. Then we have some repeating in the next line. We've already seen these two measures. They're just like the very beginning. And now we have two more measures to finish out the first A part. This is just kind of a turnaround. We have a measure of D and then a split measure where half of it is an E chord and half of it is an A chord. It sounds like this, measure 9 there. So we just walk right up the A major scale, but starting on a D note there. And then back down. So the whole line. Oh, that's pretty stuff. Now let's look at our next A part. Now, when we go into our next A part, the chord progression is going to change or stay the same, not change. The melody is going to stay the same, but we're going to explore a little bit. And I'll tell you how we're going to do that. Is we're still going to hit our landmark keynote notes, right? But we might take a pit stop in between. For instance, look there, measure 11. So instead of starting it out like we did at first, where we're going to grab that A note on the way up there. It's just an example of what you can do. If you're asking the question, well, why do I know that I can do that? Well, you don't really. That's something that just kind of comes as you begin to hear it and play it more. That open A string is in an A chord, and that's what we're playing over, so that gives it a little bit of legitimacy, right? And then the other way that we can spice it up a little bit is compare measure 12 here to measure 4. They're corresponding measures. And instead of doing a quarter note here on the 4th fret, in measure 4 we go. This time we're just going to play it twice. So that's something really, really simple that just adds an extra note in there and brings up the complexity a little bit. And maybe most importantly, it changes up the first and second A parts so that it doesn't sound exactly the same, although it's okay if you do play it exactly the same. Same thing, measure 13. We're going to catch that A string going up. It's also over a D chord, so that works good. And then again, we're just going to add some eighth notes on top of the notes that we've already played the first time through. So that whole line. Make sure you got those pick strokes down good. Okay, make sure you're playing those. It's so, so very important that you do. Measure 15, we have some repeating. We've already seen that. And then this measure 17 and 18 is almost exactly the same as 9 and 10. It's the same going up, but we're just going to walk the scale a bit more coming back down in 18. So the whole line. Okay, we've made our way through 2 of the A parts of Bill Cheatham, and it's not that difficult, is it? We've made it easy, where you can hear that melody and really get that ingrained in your brain so that we can start adding notes around it as we see fit and as we learn to improvise and things like that. So I want you to take this basic fiddle 2 melody and just implant it so that you think about these core notes whenever you think about Bill Cheatham. Now, what are we going to do next? Well, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I'm going to ask you to come over to the website. You can have the rest of this lesson as a GoldPick member. But if you're watching on the site, we're going to play all the way through these 2 A parts back to back, slowly, together. And then we're going to continue on with the B parts, which is a bit more complex, a lot more chord changes. The melody gets a bit more involved. So we'll check that out too.